This is our weekly Define My Day meetup here, Monday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern. If you're listening to the replay, please join us live on our Facebook page, Define My Day, um, 10 o'clock Eastern every Monday. And we go over all of, anything that is related to Define My Day. If anybody has a question, they need some more clarification on a part of Define My Day, or if they're struggling in an area, we like to answer those questions. But I also bring a topic and how to use Define My Day better. Today's topic is really about this book right here, The One Thing. I read it about a month ago, and it was one of those books that I read where I was like, man, I wish I would have read this one about 5 years ago. Um, the other book that I felt that way about was The Miracle Morning. I struggled with coming up with a morning routine for a long time, and I read that one, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, it could have been a nice shortcut and helped me out with that. But this one, same thing. Very much explains the process that we're going through with Define My Day to focus on what matters in life. Um, and don't let the name fool you. He goes into focusing on the one thing, the most important thing in your day, and explains how that relates to failures that you might have and what that means when you're focusing on one thing, the actions you take every day, and how you make decisions based on the one thing you're focusing on. Um, and how we waste energy on things that we shouldn't be doing. But it's not that we're only doing one thing in our lives. You can have a one thing in each category, very much like how in Define My Day, we have personal priorities and goals, we have relationship priorities and goals, we have financial priorities and goals, we have work priorities and goals. So don't it's not a black and white thing. There's it's not like we're just gonna like one day wake up and only focus on one thing and be dedicated to that thing at the expense of everything else. But what we are going to do is try to shine a light on what's most important to us, and then use that as a way to make decisions moving forward. And when you can make decisions based on this sense of purpose you have, you're better able to prioritize things, and let certain things go. We out of habit, out of the way that we were brought up, out of a culture maybe that we're in at work or whatever. We're sort of training ourselves to see things as being important. But when you really take time to focus on what's important to you, actions that you felt were important aren't really that important. And so you can say, look, I can let this go. Not important to me right now. Um, One example I use for myself is yard work. Like yard work, I thought was important. I thought it was important to have a great yard, a garden, all this other stuff. And I realized that, all of the other things that I was sacrificing by spending so much time in the yard, right? Spending so much money, so many resources. And, when I realized, look, I'm working 10, 12, 14 hours a day. I'm then, doing after hours things like networking, which eventually I gave up also. Um, and I want to have free time to do other things, but then we have kids, my wife, and there's a lot going on. So spending hours in the yard working when we have, and then I'm exhausted on Monday. So we had to make some sacrifices, say that, look, the yard, right now can't be beautiful. We can offload and pay somebody to do some of it, but some of it's just not going to be as beautiful as we want it to be because I have other things that are much more important. So, if something happens, I'm not focusing on work because I'm exhausted, or I'm not doing the work that I should be doing, whatever that might be, and I can't make money. I can't grow my business. I can't bring home enough money to pay the bills or even do anything relaxing once in a while. The bank isn't going to come to me and say, look, we know you missed your mortgage payments, but the yard looks great. So thank you. You can keep the house. That's not going to happen. They're going to say, thank you. Now we can sell it and make a little bit of our money back after we foreclose on you. So, there's we have to look at the grand scope and see, like, there's things I'm willing to give up because there's other things that are more important. To me, growing my business was more important at that time. And then when I wasn't doing that, spending time with my family was more important, and repairing relationships with my wife, and building relationships with my kids. That was more important than all of the other things that I felt was important at the time. So we're gonna go through a couple of ideas in the one thing, um, and how it might relate to what we're doing with Define My Day. If I think my takeaway from this book is if I was to write a manual uh, that really gives you the whole background and the purpose of Define My Day, this is about as close as I think we can get right now. I'm not anywhere near trying to author a book, but if I were to, the components in here are very much like what is the basis of Define My Day. So I think that this was a great companion book for anybody that wants to really understand our process and Define My Day. And I think if you've been doing Define My Day for a while, you're not going to read this and go, "Yeah, that's I never thought about that." But it's gonna reinforce some thoughts we've already had, right? And as I'm going through this, and I mark things and I dog your pages, it's not anything that I went like, "Oh, I never thought of it." It's just concise ways of saying the things that we're already saying. So I'll get into this with you in a minute. In the meantime, I'm going to say good morning. Good morning, Kathy. Good morning, Angel. And good morning, Angela. Good to see you all. Hope you're doing well. We had a good weekend on our end. The weather has been beautiful. Kathy sent the cold weather, but we rebounded, and this weekend was in the 80s. If not the 80s yesterday, it was really high 70s. And we had a good Steelers win. My boys are back to playing flag football, which I was incredibly happy to watch. My older one is the football player, studies football, loves football. He's a little football thesaurus, or not thesaurus, but a little football encyclopedia. I mean, he knows it, and yeah, it's fun to watch him play. And he was so nervous because it's a new school district, new kids. He doesn't know anybody, and he's just so nervous. And the self talk was just like, "Oh, what if I'm not good? These guys are so big." And had some really tall kids on the team. But like once he got back on there, that muscle memory took over. His knowledge of the game took over, and he played really really well. I was very proud of him. So he's looking forward to it. It was nice to see him out there playing again. And then the little one, man, he was he's just starting out. And a lot of the kids at his age, 6 years old, they don't really pay attention too well. But watching him, I mean, he had fun. He had a really good run, like 20 or 30 yards. It was a little shocking. I think everybody was a little surprised when he got it. He had a couple of good flag pulls. So I think, we went through the similar thing with the older one, at that early age, they're just sort of kind of wrapping their head around it. And Big Brother plays football, so he wants to play football too, which is, it's always fun to watch. So we spent 3 hours on the fields, 3.5 hours on the fields that day. Exhausting for all of us. But yeah, it was a good time. Good weekend. Overall, a really good weekend. Kathy says, good morning. Kathy says, I am the second person to recommend this book to you today. And it's a very good book. It's a very good book. There's some books I read, like books from Brene Brown, because she's done so much research over time. She has these moments of clarity, and she really deep dives deep into concepts, and it makes you really think about it. If you've been in our process for a while, this isn't going to give you that feeling, but it's going to give you like a broader scope of some of it, and it's going to make you feel like like you're going to get some reinforcement as to why Define My Day is the right path for you. If you're new to this process, this is a great starter book. It's a great way to really familiarize yourself with what we're doing. So, I think it's like a great reference. It's a great reference. I'm going to get into our other book right now. This one right here. This is the Do One Thing Every Day That Centers You. A little mindfulness journal that we sell on the website, and just random page. The good life is one inspired by love and guided by knowledge. And the two prompts that come from that quote, and we're a little bit blown out with the colors right here, but you can see it right there. The good life is one inspired by love and guided by knowledge. And then your two little prompts over on this side are one day would be love that inspired me today, And the other one is knowledge that guided me today. And I like that. I like that a lot. I like it a lot because I'm I don't want to get into this too far, but um, I'm starting to notice segments of society. Uh, there's ones that, and I think I'm aware of it because I feel like I've been in both sides. There's ones that are always looking to judge, to pull down other people around them, to, it's like there's like a limited resource, and they feel like if anybody else does well also, that means that they are losing in some way, right? There's these win-lose scenarios, and I think that there a lot of them, a lot of times are fake. um, and so I think that there's a group of people that needs to feel superior, right? And the only way to do that is to make other people feel inferior. And then there's another group of people that starts with love, right? That starts with trying to build other people up, and that knows that together we can be better than anyone can be by themselves. And I feel like I've switched camps. I feel like I've gone into the second camp. It was always kind of like a me against the world feeling, for a while in life. And I think maybe that comes from bullying, and like there's certain things that where you kind of develop that mentality. But I think as you get a little bit, if you get a little bit more empathetic and understanding of other people and what they might be going through, you kind of grow into this more like, it's better if we all kind of get along kind of mentality. And I feel like I can associate with those people a little bit better while still understanding the first group. But I think it's changed a lot of my understanding in life, and I think we have to start there. I think we have to start with everybody's going through a struggle, and trying to understand how we can best help each other to be better. So that's my feeling from that one. I like that quote, or that prompt. Very cool. All right, so let's get into the one thing. A couple things I want to mention here. First, I am starting a new book today. And there's a feeling that I always get at the end of a week and at the end of the month, and to a smaller part at the end of each day. And it's that how quickly we can fall off our path. Like when we go through setting up a book, it makes us think about what I want to accomplish this month, right? What do I want to accomplish in the next 4 weeks? And as we're following the process, filling in the beginning of the book, we're re-energized, we're connected to our purpose. We really know what we want. And then as we go through the month, if we're not really getting back to it and reviewing it, we easily fall off of that path. We lose that connection to our goals. We lose that connection to what we want to be mindful of. And if you're not paying attention, and I'm guilty of it too, if you're not paying attention, if you're not revisiting these goals, and really trying to connect your weekly milestones and your daily priorities to your overall goals in the beginning of the book, you can quickly fall off. And then at the end of the book, sometimes people skip the review at the end of the book also, which you shouldn't do. Again, I've been there. Like, you just go to bed on a Sunday night, wake up on a Monday, start a new book, and don't even look at the old one. Don't even close it out. And what happens is we drift. We fall off of that path. We drift. And, we go back and open up that book and look at those goals at the beginning and be like, wow, I didn't address any of this. I said it was important, but I didn't address any of it. And so why didn't we? Is it that it really wasn't as important as we thought? Or we let ourselves get distracted and we fell off of our path? And so we need to make sure that we continuously reconnect, and we can make educated decisions as to, like, okay, I said this was a goal, but, after going through it, I didn't feel like that was really as important as I thought it was. So I'm gonna put that off to the side and maybe think about that one longer, and meantime do this other stuff. And that's okay. Like, we can change our minds, but we really need to continuously revisit that, and understand that we can make changes. Failing in a goal or deciding to quit isn't necessarily failure, but failure is also a way to teach us things, right? We can learn from failure. We learn a lot from failure. And we want to be able to keep going back and reviewing what we said we were going to do in the beginning, and understand why we didn't do it. But so we go through this like cycle where we start off motivated, right? We start off, we do our goal setting, we start off motivated, and we launch into the first week, and then it just kind of drifts. Things start nagging at us. We lose energy, we lose focus, we stop reviewing, and then within a couple of weeks we're completely off path, and then we start again the next month, and we're like, yeah, motivated, let's go, I'm going to do this, and then the same cycle continues. So the only way to stop that is to grow our awareness. Grow our awareness as to why we keep getting distracted. Grow our awareness as to why we stop doing what we say is important to do. And we allow ourselves to fall off. If we continue to review, continue to explore our actions and why they may not be connected to the things that we said were important, until we really take time to explore that, we're not going to make the progress that we want. And when we don't make the progress we want, all that energy that went into launching us in the beginning, right? All the motivation and energy that we put into it, if we waste it, then we build this habit of starting and not finishing, but we're also tired then, and you're exhausted. So you are less likely to want to go through that again. And if one of the areas where people do this a lot is in weight loss and exercise. And, you spend all week, eating well, exercising, and then you have one major blow up day on a Friday or Saturday night where you just eat an entire pizza and drink, 20 beers or whatever might be happening. Right. And, so let's just say you saved 400 calories a day for 6 days, right? 2,400 calories. And then, is my math correct there? I just had it like, whoa, did I do that right? And then you have like one day where you blow it up and eat that many calories in one meal, and all of a sudden you're just stagnant. So all that work you put into that was completely washed away. And so you start off the next week and you go through the same cycle. You're launching the rocket, right? It takes more energy just to get off the ground than it does to continue flying. And so you use all that energy to lift off. And then when we sabotage ourselves a week later, or at some point during the week, and we ruin our progress, then we have to start that process all over again. And so we want to avoid that process from happening. So we need to be very careful and very aware of the things we do to sabotage ourselves and sacrifice our energy and efforts. So um, let's see what Sandy says. Thank you for promoting books and reading. It's easy to set aside reading. Most of us know we need to read, so thank you for the reminder. You're welcome. So I'm the same way. And what I found is, I'm the same way in that I can let reading, like I can set it aside often. But what I find is that the more I read, the better I feel. I have the same feeling about meditation. The more I meditate, the better I feel. But it's that thing every day that somehow I can always let it slip away, right? And so I've started working in small like 2-minute meditations throughout the day. And same with reading, is that I'll leave books laying around, or I'll make sure I carry it with me everywhere I go, or I will make myself a deal that if I finish this book, I can do this, right? Like I make bargains with myself. But one of the things I figured out is to like always have a bunch of books ready to read. And then I've tried to like mix like sitting out in the front yard or sitting out on the back porch with reading, so that I'm getting fresh air and I'm feeling like I'm combining a couple of things. But it's also that like you don't have to read for an hour a day. There's sometimes I can read for 3 hours a day. Other times you just read for 20 minutes, right? And if I find myself wasting time doing something really, inconsequential, I'll say, okay, this is a good opportunity for me to read, right? I can still be resting while also learning. And, I think most of my progress in life, any of the improvements I've made for myself, has been due to reading something really good, either listening on an Audible book or reading a book through Kindle or the actual hardback. So I think that I think it's incredibly important, and I wish I would have done it a lot sooner in life. Spent more time reading. And there's people like, so there's billionaires that spend hours reading every day. You know, if somebody can make $1 billion while spending so much time reading, that's how important it is, right? So us trying to scrape by, if you're scraping by, and you're just trying to outpace the debt payments. Imagine like if reading is important for that really smart billionaire, imagine how important it could be for somebody that's just trying to keep ahead of, keep their head above water. It's not less important. It's actually probably more important because we can gain little bits of knowledge that can help our situation. Angel, what color did I pick? I went with red. I've been running with red for the past couple of months. Um, I, uh, I just I don't know if it's a passion thing for me. I love red. Red's my favorite color, so I've been rolling with red. And I picked like we have a little black mark on this one, if you can see it. Like those are the little things that don't pass our QC. So when Lynn sees a book with a little black mark on it, she sets it aside, and that either goes into our clearance aisle or it goes into my hands. So I don't take any of the books that we can actually sell to people. But yeah, so she's pretty strict with it. That little black mark's not that big a deal, but when you open it up, that's not what you want to see. So I think it's kind of nice that she does that. All right, so let's get into this. Oh, wait, one more comment. Hold on, two more comments. Angela says scared of review. Yes, a lot of people are that way, and I think you have to change this mindset that it's like a judgment, right? Like these are realities that are hurting us or helping us no matter what. So avoiding it isn't good, and it's a habit. That habit of avoidance is good, and so or is not good. Don't have the habit of avoidance. Beating it is good, and so I've taken it like in upon myself in life to when I feel myself avoiding something, whether it's having a difficult conversation, whether it's doing something I know is healthy for me. The moment I feel like I'm avoiding something, I then try to do it immediately because I'm trying to break myself of that habit. And the few times I've failed in that area, like I'll put off a phone call for a couple of weeks, or I'll put off addressing something, or doing something that's bothering me or in the house or whatever. And if I put it off, I know it's stressing me out. And the moment I finish it, the moment I do it, I know that I feel so much better. I'm like, oh, why did I let that wait for so long? So I'm trying to now, like, difficult conversations or whatever, I try to say, like, no, look, like, have it now, get it over with, and you'll feel better. And I look at that as a place to grow. And so, look at review as this opportunity to learn from your action or inaction and grow from it. So, when you look at, like, don't judge yourself. Look at, I said I wanted to do this. I didn't. Why didn't I? And the answer might be, well, it's really not as important as I thought it was. The answer might also be, I didn't put some effort into it. And so even if, that happens for a little bit of time, a couple of days, maybe even a couple of weeks, but if you keep coming back to it, you're sort of training your brain to look for opportunity to accomplish it. So you don't want to look at it as like a persecution. Look at it as an opportunity to learn more about yourself. And I think if you can make that little bit of a shift, review comes as a little bit more of an opportunity, and maybe something you might even enjoy doing. Brenda's got a rainy morning in Kentucky. Have a huge stack of books to read. That's cool. I know it's been so nice here, but I know the weather's going to turn, I think, tomorrow. So we're going to start getting cold and hopefully not too rainy. Don't send any of that rain my way. I do red as my first of the year and blue in the rest of the year. Very cool. I like that. And I can't see that sticker. It's too small. I don't know what that is. And apparently it's the wrong one. But I don't know. I can't see it. You're welcome, Angela. You're welcome. Good morning is what you meant to say. Good morning. So let's see what we got here. Okay, cool. All right, so let's get into the one thing. Uh, and I picked out some of the most important passages in here that I just kind of want to relay to you guys in explaining this one thing concept. So, in the very beginning of the book, he goes into four big ideas. And these are the big ideas, the takeaways that we should have, when we're trying to address what that one thing is in our lives. So, first, go small. Don't focus on being busy, focus on being productive. Allow what matters most to drive your day. And the concept here is this is that like he goes into the 80-20 rule where 80% of your action leads to 20% of your results. And 20 did I say that backwards? 80% of your action leads to 20% of your results. 20% of your action leads to 80% of your results. Um, and so, what that means is like we're wasting 80% of our time on a bunch of other stuff that really doesn't have any impact on our lives. 80% of our, or 20% of our action leads to 80% of our results. Um, True or not, we want to really become aware of all of the things that we have to do in a day and how it can create a huge impact, right? You can do one thing that brings in more money, that improves a relationship immensely. You can spend time doing small things that have a big impact. Where I in my life I've spent an amazing amount of time doing huge, laborious projects and not been any better for it. And then I look back on it and go, man, I did all that stuff and it had no positive impact. Like it actually had a negative impact. Why would I do that to myself? And you bring it all the way back down to like, the argument we see from people in our advertising and our posts is that I don't have time to do this. I don't have time to write down what's important to me. And if you look at that concept of like 5 minutes of setting your intention for the day, right? So that you can gain that awareness through the day and say no to other big time consuming things, you gain more time from doing that. You gain so much more time when you gain that awareness of like, I can say no to this. Not important to me. I thought it was important, but it's really not. These other things are much more important. So I can spend a couple hours doing the really important things and just say no to everything else. Wouldn't that be great? And then you can end up better. Like you get better results from that. You're less tired. You're less overwhelmed. You're less stressed. You are more fulfilled because you're focusing on the things that you really want to do. And then he says, go extreme. Number 2 is go extreme. Once you've figured out what actually matters, keep asking what matters most until there is only one thing left. The core activity goes to the top of your success list. Go extreme. Whittle it down as tightly as you can. Okay? Say no. Whatever you say later, whether you say later or never, the point is to say not now to anything else that you could do until your most important work is done. So, how many of us get caught into? And there's actually somebody else. What's his name? His book was Procrastinate on Purpose. Like it goes through this decision making technique where you decide, like you say, not now. I'll do maybe that'll be later, and you keep running it through that process until it either goes away or becomes a priority. I think it's Rory Vaden. But he's saying, say no today until you get done the most important things. If you followed us, you know that we try to place our priority blocks, if we're time blocking, we place our priorities at the beginning of the day, right? Or if you can't because you have to go to work, we place our priorities either in the morning before work or first thing when we get home from work. Because a couple of ways, the reasons this works out. Number 1, you have the most energy, the most willpower, the most ability to focus earlier in the day. The more you wear yourself out doing other things, the less energy you have for that priority later in the day. So the more likely you're going to say, I don't really feel I don't feel like doing it now. I'll wait until tomorrow. So you begin procrastinating on your priorities, which is a bad habit, right? So the other thing that can happen is that if you put your priorities at the end of the day, is that unexpected things will kick them off your calendar. So if you spend all your morning doing busy work, doing, stuff that really has no impact, right? That's not going to make you any more money, not going to strengthen your relationships, not bring you closer to your purpose in life. And then an emergency happens at noon, right? And you planned on doing your priority right after lunch at 1 o'clock, but an emergency happens and you have to run out the door. Or a client calls and all of a sudden you've got an emergency with a client or your kids or whatever. And now you don't have time for your priority, right? So now you can't. You have to wait until tomorrow, not because you procrastinated, but because something else got in the way. Whereas if you would have done your priority in the morning, there's much less opportunity for a priority to get superseded by an emergency. So you keep, and another thing is you can make deals with yourself. Like there might be something you want to do that might not be a priority, but you can say, I will allow myself to do this after my priority is done. It's how we came up with the today I get to enjoy and define my day. Like I don't get to enjoy this unless I do my priority today. So say no. Whether you say later or never, the point is to say not now to anything else you could do until your most important work is done. So identify what's most important and get in the habit of doing it now, as early as possible now, in the morning, whatever, before all the other goofy, stupid stuff. Number 4, don't get trapped in the checkoff game. If we believe things don't matter equally, we must act accordingly. This goes directly to the to-do list. We can't fall prey to the notion that everything has to be done. That checking things off our list is what success is all about. We can't be trapped in a game of checkoff that never produces a winner. The truth is that things don't matter equally, and success is found in doing what matters most. Now, this, for me, hit home. I've told the story before. I was driving home, like when I was still doing Define My Day from printouts, right? Just doing it on a sheet of paper every day. I was driving home one day, and I remember I was driving down the hill towards a stoplight, and I felt this guilt that I was going home for dinner. It was like 4:30, 5 o'clock. It was early for me. I usually don't get home till 6 or 7, right? And I'm driving home, and I felt all this guilt for not getting my to-do list done. And I had to actively say to myself, that stuff doesn't matter. You wrote down that these were the things that you needed to accomplish today. These were the priorities you wrote down, and whatever they were, I don't remember, but they're the work tasks that I needed to get done that day. And I said to myself, no matter what today, this is what you're doing. And after you do these, you're golden. And so I didn't do a quantity of work. I did really high quality work. And so as I'm driving down the street and I'm coming up to this red light, I'm saying to myself, like, it's okay. You did something amazing today. Whatever it was, whatever the project or whatever it was, that was the really important thing that moved my business forward. And all of the other nagging little stupid stuff that I didn't do, it's okay. It's not going to matter. And I keep my Wonder List. I had the Wonder List app when it's not even around anymore. And that Wonder List app, I keep it on my phone. And the reason is because I look through this to-do list. It was over 100 to-do list items, and I never did any of them. And I can look back at it now and say, my life is better for not doing them. I didn't waste all this time. I mean, the hours it would have taken to do all this stuff, none of it mattered. At the time, it felt important. But when I started aligning my priorities, my actions I was doing every day with this list of stuff I felt I needed to do, when I started giving them different weight, when I started making certain things a priority connected with my purpose, all this other stuff fell off. I mean, and I think like I'm still pretty busy, right? I don't have a whole lot of time to just sit around and do nothing. As an adult, as a business owner, as a member of my community, right? And I look at all of the things all the time that I would have spent on this stuff, and I think, wow, like, what would I have missed by spending so much time doing this garbage? So that's why you can't weight everything equally. You can't just say, here's my list of things to do. I'm going to check off as many things as possible. You have to let things fall off the bottom and other things go to the top and say, I'm going to do this first before all of this other stuff. You have to create a priority list, and that you have to weight that against what's most important to you and what's going to move you forward. All right, next I'm going to go to time. Or no, I'm sorry. This is willpower. So time is a limited resource, but willpower is also a limited resource. Each act of will creates a win-lose scenario where winning in the immediate situation through willpower makes you more likely to lose later because you have less of it. Again, this goes to the importance of doing the hard things that are aligned with your purpose earlier in the day. Your willpower being limited, then if you use it, then you don't have it later to actually power through the things you need to focus on and do. It's also one of the things why we talked about the book Willpower, the Baumeister book. It's also why we want to make hard decisions earlier, and so that we don't have to keep making them later on. It's like, if I closely relate to keeping snacks in the house. If I make the decision at the grocery store to not buy a box of Oreos, then I don't have to keep making the decision daily to not eat Oreos if they're staring me in the face in the house every day, right? Because I'm not going to get up and go buy Oreos randomly in the middle of an evening, but I will randomly walk into the kitchen and grab two or three, right? And so if I make that hard decision once in the beginning and I don't have to keep making it later on, then that doesn't drain my willpower, especially at the lowest time when I don't have a whole lot left at the end of the day. So I end up with a better result by making that decision up front. All right, so you want to ask yourself, what's the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? Okay? So by me saying I don't buy Oreos at the grocery store, then I don't have everything becomes easier later on for the next week or two, right? Saying that, making the decision that I don't need to keep my grasses down my list. By saying that, when I'm stuck with a project of rebuilding a wall, or do I want to aerate the grass, or am I going to plant a garden? If I've already decided once that I'm not going to make that a priority, then all of those decisions are easy to make. If we discuss, like, hey, thinking about doing a garden this year, and I can say, no, I don't have the time for that. We already decided this other stuff was more important, and it makes those decisions easier. Same thing with at work, right? I made the decision to segment or block off when I was going to be answering emails and answering the phone. My decision was that I was going to handle priorities in the morning and then check email during lunch and get back to my voicemails during lunch. So I make that decision one time, and then that's how every day goes after that, and it makes everything so much easier to accomplish my goals. And there's other ways to look at this also, but those are the easier ones for me that I can relate to. Real quick, going into the comments. Debbie, good morning, happy Monday. Good morning, Janice. Debbie says, I plan my grocery order when I'm full of willpower. Then I pick up my order and only have a healthy food in my house. Beautiful, beautiful. And I've actually, if you do pickup from grocery, and I know now it's a big thing because of COVID, by scheduling a pickup or a delivery of grocery, it might cost you a little bit more money for delivery, but by scheduling a pickup, then you are doing a couple of things. And talk about like ways to save time. You save hours walking around the grocery store. You save yourself from impulse buys. You save yourself from exposure to COVID if you're worried about that. Now they're talking about maybe it's aerosolized, right? So you're like, by making the simple decision to go through a website and pick off things for a pickup, you're saving yourself a ton of time. So that's a decision you make right now, and it makes a lot of other things easier because you're saving yourself time and you're not making bad decisions in the moment. Alternatively, you can just make a list and stick to the list, which I know is hard to do. And so that one of the major mindset considerations when doing Define My Day, and in relation to his book, Doing the One Thing, you say to yourself, until my one thing is done, everything else is a distraction. So when we are going through the Define My Day process, we have our priorities, right? And some people make priorities segments of one big priority. Other people segment it into tasks that need to be done at work, but they are priority tasks that relate to something bigger. Other people make it so that like one might have to do with work, one might be personal, one might be something else, relationships or whatever, health maybe. And so you have to look at it like we have that section for distractions down below. Sometimes to-do listy things are distractions. For me, distractions in the very beginning, I was always writing down email, social media, the telephone. Those were my major distractions. Other points in time, distractions for me were TV, right? Like, and I had to really focus on and really work hard to not turn on the TV at night because I could get stuck there for 3 hours. So I really had to ask myself, is this important, or is it more important for me to get sleep? Is it more important for me to read? Is it more important to get FaceTime with my kids? So you have to look at like the one thing that you want to do today, your priority today. What's the like that? Everything else is a distraction. Everything else is not important until you get that thing done. And until you develop that, it's going to be a struggle. So you have to kind of ingrain that into your mind. Debbie says, "I plan my menus." We're going back to the food, right? This is a great way to do it. This pre-planning, by doing this, you're offloading this fight you have with your brain every day. I plan my menus by the month and then take out meat for supper the next day so that I don't have to stress over what to fix each day. And it's great because that little bit of stress, like that little one thing is chipping away on your willpower and chipping away on your energy and chipping away on your time. And imagine all of the other times that happens, right? So all these arguments we have in our head every day, that if we can minimize that, we have more energy to focus on the really important things. And Debbie is on chemotherapy. Haven't been anywhere except home and hospital since March 9th. No grocery shopping for me. Oh, I'm sorry to hear about the chemotherapy. I hope it's working for you. I hope you're doing well. Yeah, we'll keep you in our prayers. I'm sorry to hear that. But I do appreciate your contribution here. I like what you have going on with how you're approaching this. Sandy says, "I love the movie In Time." Oh, I do too. I've actually seen it a few times. It's a what's the guy's name? Justin Timberlake movie. I love the movie In Time, where everything is paid with time, not money. Promotes a different perspective. Very similar to what you described. We should all do what is the biggest priority. So, and that's like, if you haven't seen the movie, like everybody's born, like I think when you turn 18, there's like a clock on your wrist that starts turning and counting down. And everybody's born with 1 hour, or I'm sorry, 1 year, I think. And like people are, you pay for food with time, you pay your rent with time, and then you earn time from working. And so, when you look at it that way, like when it's a life or death thing, it puts it in perspective as to, like what should we be spending our time doing? All right, what's the next one here? Okay. So he in goal setting, he brings it from the top, like your someday goal, all the way down to the right now goal. And we do the same thing. We've talked about this a couple of times, like how to set goals, like find your purpose, set goals, and connect it down along the line. So this is his conversation that he has with himself, to kind of bring the future forward. So he says, based on my someday goal, what's the one thing I can do in the next 5 years to be on track to achieve it? Now, based on my 5-year goal, what's the one thing I can do this year to be on track to achieve my 5-year goal, so that I'm on track to achieve my someday goal? Now, based on my goal this year, what's the one thing I can do this month so that I'm on track to achieve my goal this year, so that I'm on track to achieve my 5-year goal, so I'm on track to achieve my someday goal? See where we're going here? Now, based on my goal this month, what's the one thing I can do this week, talking about milestones now, so that I'm on track to achieve my goal this month, so that I'm on track to achieve my goal this year, so that I'm on track to achieve my 5-year goal, so that I'm on track to achieve my someday goal? Now, based on my goal this week, what's the one thing I can do today so that I'm on track to achieve, and we see where we're going, right? So that thing, what's the one thing I can do today? We're talking a priority. Um, and then the last one is what's the one thing I can do right now so that I can be on track to achieve my goal today, right? So in this moment, right now, what's the one thing I can do right now to accomplish this priority that I set for myself so that I can achieve my weekly milestone, so that I can achieve my monthly goal, so that I can achieve what's my purpose in life, right? Where I want to be this year, where I want to be next year, where I want to be in 5 years. And as we go to this concept of what we need to do, I like this. I've never read this before, but I think it's a good way to look at it. Is that my work is done when it's done, right? This first things first, finish it mentality. And his analogy is the dairy farmer doesn't get to knock off at any certain time. He goes home when the cows have been milked. And I think we need to take more time to look at things that way. How often do we procrastinate and get so far off of our path? And we work and we go, well, that's enough for now. I can do it later. Like I'll get back to it, and then maybe we never get our way back to it. And there's a difference between setting like stopping points, right? We can like all the cows for us might be different. Like for me, all the cows is getting this amount of work done, getting this one project done. There's a lot more milking that has to go on, but today this is how much needs to get done to move forward for tomorrow. And so we need to start looking at like this work that we say needs to get done needs to get done, right? We can't leave the cows unmilked. All right, going back into the comments, Debbie says life is beautiful, even with medical treatments. Being home has given me headspace and a great dose of priority. I love the one thing, and it's made a difference in my business. I left my traveling speaking job with COVID and had to rebrand myself. Very cool. Good for you. Good for you. That's awesome. Um, yeah, and I think we gain so much perspective as we go through troubling times. You see what we take for granted and what where we have missed, right, and what we can do now. With the small things that matter. And this whole COVID experience has taught us that. I think for a lot of people, it's taught us. I know there's some out there that continue to have to run up against a hard lesson, but um, yeah, yeah. Jewish holiday, South Florida. No work for me on public school campus. On back porch with the Find My Day journal. Thanks for the conversation. You're welcome, Laura. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate it. And Brenda joined late. That's okay. Can you tell me the name of the book you're referring to? Thank you. Okay, so the book we're referring to today, and you'll see a link in the description of this this video here, is The One Thing by Gary Keller with Jay Papasan. And it's the surprisingly simple truth behind extraordinary results. And it is very much aligned with what we do with Define My Day. And in fact, I think it was Kathy. I posted that I was reading this last month, and Kathy was like, I'm shocked you haven't read that yet. And it's funny because I come across something that either was on the bookshelf for a while or just never crossed my path, crossed my attention, and you see it and go, oh my goodness, if I would have read this 5 years ago, how much further ahead would I be? So yeah, definitely one of those books. So yeah. Well, that is it for today. We're coming up on 11 o'clock. I'm going to get on with what I have going on. In fact, I still need to finish going through my new Define My Day book to finish planning out my month. But I'll be back on Monday next week, 10 o'clock Eastern. So please join me again. You can also get the replay of this. Will be on YouTube. You can also catch it on our Facebook page if you're watching it here. And I will be uploading it tomorrow to the Defining Life podcast. So you'll see that there. But I appreciate everybody joining me here. I appreciate the comments. I appreciate the feedback. Good luck to everybody this week. Be intentional with your actions. keep trying to reconnect your daily actions with the path that you choose, understanding that you can change that path, understanding that you can realize you're going down the wrong path and you have to backtrack a little bit. That happens. It's happened with me. It's happened with a lot of people in our group. The decisions you make today are very important, but they're not anything that you can't adjust as you move forward. So don't feel that any of this locks you into a certain path, but we need to practice being intentional about the directions that we're going and not just going in a bunch of different directions. So everybody have a great day today. Keep moving forward, and I will see you again next week. And I'll catch some of you guys in the user group also. But I'll see you again next week, 10 o'clock Eastern. Take care.